Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Creators Corner here with TubeBuddy. Really excited for this session today. Today's a little bit different. It's not really an interview. It's going to be straight up YouTube channel reviews with a bunch of channels that people have volunteered. So if you're here, if you volunteered your channel through the Content Marketers Cafe Facebook group, we will be going through and touching on your channel today. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to bring my guest on here, and we're going to introduce him. Hey, Josh, how's it going?
It's going great, man. How are you doing up in Canada?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How are you in Dallas, Texas?
I work from home. I've been consulting for about the last 6 years. So the only difference for me is I now have 2 kids instead of just 1 kid home. We're doing all right. One of the things I've definitely noticed, if I've been out to the store a few times just getting little groceries, everybody is super polite. So, where Dallas is a very rustle and bustle. I know you've been here a few times for some summits and things like that. Everybody's like busy, like get out of my way. And it's like we're back in the Bible Belt. We're like slowed down. We're really polite, but we're hanging in there. We're doing fine.
Cool.
And I'm super excited for, I think I'll call this my lightning YouTube audit round, because I've never attempted to, normally it takes me about an hour to go through a channel, and that's probably about 30 to an hour and a half prep before I even start talking to the channel owner. So we're going to see how this goes. I got some Red Bull because I have a 1-month-old, and we're just gonna, hit it.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, we're just going to rifle through these. We've got Orlando guy here. We've got Deb. We've got Graham. We've got a bunch of people tuning in here from different channels. If you're here, say hello. We know that you're there, so say hello. I always say this is a conversation, these sessions, but more than ever, this session definitely is, because as Josh is going through different channels, even if it's not your channel, hopefully you'll get something out of it. You'll say, oh yeah, I should do that for my banner. I should do that for my thumbnail. All these things do apply to really all channels. And so I hope you get something out of it. Say hello in the chat. Josh, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. I know you're super busy. Before we jump into it, tell people who you are, your business, what you do. You don't just hang out all day drinking Red Bull in front of YouTube. So
basically, yeah, that is how my wife describes me. So let's see, about 2009, I got into the video production business, and I was working for a company at the time where we were already creating like IPTV networks, which is a terrible name, but that's what we were calling it. We were basically creating online training that we were streaming. So you got to remember, YouTube started in 2005. Nothing had really picked on. I started working for this company in 2007. And when Linda was just basically doing Microsoft Word and everything, we were teaching people, like we were doing motivational talks. We were teaching people Photoshop and iMovie and how to use the Apple, like probably Snow Leopard operating system at the time, like way back in the day. So I've always kind of been on the bleeding edge of, like where video and what we now call video marketing goes. So as an editor, started my own video production company in 2009 in the last recession. And then about 2013, I started realizing all my video clients were basically hiring me to shoot video, and they were all putting them on YouTube and then hosting them either on their blogs or their company websites. And so that really made me start thinking of like, okay, I should probably focus on this YouTube thing, since it's online video. It's been here for a few years. And since about 2014, I've started 2 YouTube agencies, but got bought out of both of them. And then now I just basically freelance consult for creators and small brands. And then I work with some Fortune 500 companies. That's pretty much where I stay. Is, larger brands will bring me in. They're like, hey, this YouTube thing's been around for like 15 years. We're just now starting to talk about it. Can you teach us about it? And I'm like, yes. So that's kind of what I do as my full-time gig.
Awesome. And you're part of the TubeBuddy family as well. So last year we were hanging out. We were sharing houses.
Yep. We got to share a Lion King house together, and sing Hakuna Matata.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, those was fun times. But this is your jam. So you see a ton of channels all the time. So I'm really excited for this session, to be honest. So I'm excited for all the sessions, but this one is really special because we actually get to dive into channels and actually talk about them and pick them apart. And big thanks to all the volunteers for being brave to just say, like, literally one of my friends here, Bree, she's like, here's my channel, rip it apart. So here we go. So one last sip of Red Bull and let's dive into it. So I'll share your screen, Josh,
Okay.
and then that's probably the easiest. And then we'll just kind of go through and discuss. And if you have any questions, please, this is a conversation. So drop them in the comments. I'll be watching the comments.
Okay.
And Josh will be going into the channels here. So let's go.
And real quick, just we're trying to do so many channels on like such a short time period. I'm just going to hit the high level thing that stands out to me. So if it's good or bad, and then I'm just going to kind of move on. Nothing's bad. It's all good. We can always improve. And then if I don't hit all the questions, I did read all the questions. I'm actually going to spend some time later on today to go back in and personally answer all those questions and leave a comment on each one of the channels if we just don't get to it. So real quick, Gabriel, let's see, made from scratch. That makes me think some sort of cooking. I'm a freak. I actually go to the About tab. See, I'm a writer, author, and entrepreneur, host a regular podcast with my co-host, Annie. We live stream nightly broadcasts. Okay. So one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this channel is because, especially in today's society, going around with what's going on in our world today, live streaming is shooting through the roof. I know you said Zoom is now trending on both YouTube and the TubeBuddy tool, which is a tool I've used for the last 3 years. But to my best recollection, we're in the 4th podcast bubble. Because this is like the 4th time podcasting has become a really big buzzword. So, and a lot of people don't realize this, but YouTube is actually the #1 platform for audio and music. So that's what they stream more than anything else. Now, for all you business owners out there, the 4th largest content pillar on YouTube outside movies, music's #1. How-to content is actually #4. So it's really big training and music platform. So anybody doing a podcast, I've even seen the podcast network starting to put YouTube as their one publish, but YouTube is so different from like an Apple iTunes directory. So with any podcast or any live stream, I think you really have to ask the question, if I'm just an audio podcast, yes, you can put it up on YouTube and just keep on doing it. Mark Maron has one of the longest running comedic podcasts, I think, in the history. He interviewed President Barack Obama a few years ago. If you go to his YouTube channel, he has over 1 million subscribers, and all of his podcasts are just straight up audio with like a screen on them. But he has really in-depth conversational interviews that bring a lot of value. He's a celebrity himself. He's allowed to bring that kind of celebrity status to his podcast. But for us mere mortals like me, you, and Gabriel, like, why would anybody want to watch our podcast on YouTube? And for starters, we can also do video. So I think one of the things, and this is something that I really had to wrestle through, is with my podcast, I wanted to do YouTube on it. But I was like, if I'm going to ask somebody to watch this video when nobody knows who I am for 35 minutes, what's the point of them watching it on YouTube instead of just listening to it in their earbuds? So we have a podcast where we basically are doing case studies. So you can listen to it in audio format, but like as I'm going through and talking about channels and why this YouTube channel's thumbnails are absolutely awesome and commenting on very particular ones, that gives you a reason to go find me on YouTube and watch that video there. Gabriel, from the little bit I saw from you, you're a great interviewer. Your audio's pretty good. It's not all muffled like some of the people I listen to. You're bringing on a lot of guests, but you're at, 18, 19 videos right now. So you're still in kind of like the grind phase. And what I mean by this, and there's a few other people that put their channel, the grind phase is when you just need to grind out content for multiple reasons. One, the faster you get through your content, the quicker you're going to get through like your lighting setup, and then your voice, your tone, like what do you really want to talk about? And the only way we can get through that is you actually have to put in the work and just go through it. So if you're in that grind phase, like embrace it and just know that it's a working evolution. And your first video is going to be worse than your 10th video, and your 20th video is going to be better than your first video. And it's an environment, it's an evolving process. So I would say just kind of figure out your format and then just keep on grinding it out. Made from scratch, like I said, my initial thought, I was like, oh, this might be some kind of cooking thing. And it's more of an interview thing. So right away, looking at the channel art, your thumbnail design, kind of your titles. If I were to just look at this and think 5 seconds, what's this channel about? I was totally off. And that means probably a majority of your viewers are. So when you're also in this phase, you want to just punch somebody in the face like, this is my value. This is who I create content for. And this is what you can expect. So I would just kind of work on this one. Let me see if my little pen thingy works here. Do you guys see that on the screen, the writing? Okay, cool. This thumbnail is amazing. As my eye immediately went to it. I love the gradient. There's separation. A little too much text just for my personal preference, but I would go back and kind of think about this as your thumbnail model, integrate that into your channel art, maybe even bring that along into your profile icon as well. So Gabriel, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's actually a really good point. I'm not really sure where podcasts. There's a lot of podcasters that are in my sort of network, and never really sure how to advise them on how to take that onto YouTube and generate some of that traffic, and benefit from that on YouTube. So it's good that you mentioned that. I didn't know those numbers. I didn't know those stats with audio content.
And with YouTube, as opposed to like Apple Podcasts or Google Play, there's so much more SEO value. So I think a lot of podcasters just need to start there and really taking the time. When I review podcaster channels, it's like, the host name, the co-host name, the guest name, the title of the podcast, and then it's like, YouTube podcast or something like that. And that doesn't really tell the algorithm what you're about. If your podcast is all about interviewing solo entrepreneurs, do some keyword research around solo entrepreneurship, solo entrepreneurship marketing. I don't know why I picked the hardest word for me to say, but just really figure out like, what are those kind of 5 to 8 universal topics of our podcast, and at least start there. And then after you hit that kind of critical mass point of maybe like 20 videos being regularly uploaded and all optimized around that, YouTube's machine learning system is really going to start trying to put you in front of the audience. And that's where the thumbnails are going to come into play.
Gotcha.
Because nobody knows you, so you have to be catchy. This bites for you. So I wanted to talk about this channel because I've worked a little bit in gaming culture. I've consulted for 2 esports organizations. I've worked for HyperX, HP's Gaming Line, and somebody else I can't even remember. So gaming culture is always kind of like taps into like my 13-year-old self, because that's all I did is play video games and, eat pizza and drink Dr. Pepper. And what I liked about this channel, which is very unusual for the gaming space, is this is actually a little bit more of a how-to channel. And this is like, how do you build your first PC? And if I would have had a resource like this back in college when I was building PCs, I would have probably gone through about 3 less motherboards because I was buying wrong motherboards and processors. So, and I think with gaming culture becoming the norm, like you used to be a nerd and in the closet, and now it's cool to be a gamer, there's going to be more people that have never gamed in their life, like wanting to know how to build this machine, how to do different things. So I think you're doing a great job there. I would, the thumbnails, one of the things I talked about, like a motherboard is one of the most boring things. So one of my pieces of advice would be, instead of focusing on, let me try to find one, like this motherboard, I know that's a CPU and it's probably a really good one, but there's just like nothing really intriguing about this. So think about it, even though you're teaching somebody how to put this motherboard in it, how does that help somebody? Can you now live stream in 4K and HD? Can you capture better things? Will this increase your workflow? Like, what is the benefit that the end user is really going to care about. You know, the motherboard or the processor or the CPU or the graphics card is just kind of the thing that gets me there. But like, think about it in terms of a story. Like, what's my problem? And then what's the solution? And whatever we're talking about, like what PC part, that's kind of what's going to get us there. And that's kind of like your 3-act structure. So open it up like, hey, are you trying to play Fortnite with the newest battle royale package and your just computer's lagging and you can't even get your axe on, or like whatever, you build stuff. You know, if that's you, I got a like an affordable graphics card that is easy to install, that works on most PCs, and it can instantly get your, you know, like whatever back up. So if you open up your videos like that, you know, with that problem, more gamers are probably searching for, okay, like why am I not so good at Fortnite, or Fortnite tips? That might help you pop up in search. The other thing, which is that caught my eye, is this guy right here. That chair is actually sitting in my corner because my company color is orange, and I was, you know, doing like a test with their products because I wanted to pursue them. So this chair it's a Cougar gaming chair. I don't know if it's really any different than any other racing chair, but like what caught my eye about it and what caught my eye from a marketing standpoint is this is a company that's based in South Africa, and they have a presence in Australia and Europe, and they're starting to come over into North America. And there's several PC component things like this. So I think one vertical for your channel could be is, you know, everybody knows the HyperX, everybody knows the Razer products and kind of like the gaming products that have been over here, but there's a whole slew of PC peripherals that don't have as big as marketing budgets, don't have as big a presence. So if you become the guy that's like reviewing all of that stuff, you know, there's less competition around those products. So you can probably rank a lot higher for something like a Cougar gaming chair or mouse than you could like the Razer Black Widow Chroma 2 keyboard, like what I have. Like everybody and their brother, including Linus Tech Tips, has reviewed that. So always be thinking in your market, in your vertical, whatever that is, like what is everybody talking about? And just kind of write that out on a whiteboard and then look and say, what is nobody talking about? And it may be a smaller topic, but I think it's Sean Cannell says there's money in the smaller niches or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. So if everybody's talking about Apple, like let's start talking about Linux. You know, if everybody's talking about the Samsung Galaxy, let's go look at the Huawei phone, you know, that's coming out of China. A lot of tech reviewers have started to do this and trying to figure out what can I specialize in.
Yeah, that's a good tip, Josh, because like even yesterday, you know, I posted up that Zoom is just like skyrocketing as far as like trending topics. But there's other tools out there. There's other video conferencing tools that, you know, are also being searched, that people are researching and people are comparing them to. So that's just one example of, great tip. Look at what other people are not talking about.
Yeah. Oh, I think I skipped one. Bee Ninjas. So
Bee Ninjas, yeah.
Sorry, let's go back over to Bee Ninjas real quick. So this real quick looks nice ocean. I want to be there right now, but you know, thanks Corona. And looking at the videos, you know, just real quick, I don't really have a whole lot. I mean, this looks like a logo. This is just the company name. The art doesn't give me anything. But looking at the thumbnails, I'm guessing this is probably like a SaaS service. You know, and this is one of the things I need to ask Nick Ninham. So by large, I think if you just have the same thumbnail, you're not really standing out a whole lot. You know, you think about the browse and the suggested video feed. If every, this looks like it may be a podcast because I'm starting to see like some waveforms in here. But if I see, you know, 33 startup books, you know, today and then tomorrow I log in and YouTube's trying to serve 41 product development process part 5. I, you know, just real quick as I'm scanning my homepage, I'm not really going to see, hey, look, it's me. I'm not going to see, just scanning this. My mind's going to think that's the same thing.
Right.
So you need to differentiate your thumbnails again. I mean, obviously have, this goes back to visual branding, have your logo in there. Your colors seem to be like this white and kind of like a minty green. Figure out a way you can incorporate those colors into it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you have people on your podcast, even if you're just an employee at a company and you're interviewing somebody else, like I probably don't know who they are, but in your vertical, in your niche, that person's probably a rock star. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely take advantage of showing people, because that's immediately what we're doing when we're looking at thumbnails. We're trying to get the story from the thumbnail. The first thing we as humans do is we look for faces and eyes. And then
Mm-hmm.
if we don't find that, we need to figure out what is this video about from this one thumbnail. So you have to think of your thumbnails like photographers think about photographs. So I would definitely, you have some people in here, think about that. And then again, going back to, these are really long titles, maybe shortening them up a little bit. And, instead of talking about the topic, solutions,
Mm-hmm.
or using in your titles, what's the problem? I don't know anything about this company. It seems like it's something like e-commerce. So is your e-commerce site failing? And there's somebody like this, and there's like WooCommerce and I forget what the other Shopify logos on there, because those are the largest, most recognizable things in e-commerce. And so right away, that title is your e-commerce website failing. The person like about to cry, and me seeing some logos, my mind can process that so much faster, and it creates intrigue. So really think
Right.
about how your videos can create intrigues and solve problems, especially for anybody that's doing how to business channels. The way you can win on YouTube is you need to know what your ideal customer, your target audience problems are, and how can you bring value to them by providing solutions. That is like the lowest rung of the help hub hero content structure that YouTube even recommends, is
Right.
how can you help your current customers with your software? Those would be FAQ videos. Or like if you're Zoom is a really big web conferencing software right now. And a lot of people are trying to figure out how to work remotely and keep their company running and how to communicate with employees. So if I was Zoom in the marketing, I would absolutely be creating a ton of webinars around like, what is distance learning? Like, what is remote working? How does teleconferencing work? Like, what is our solution? And putting that in front of people and throwing that to LinkedIn, because I know LinkedIn is exploding right now with that problem. So
That's really good. Yeah, I mean, all of these podcast interviews look like they're with special guests. So yeah, it would be good to just have their headshot in there. I think that
yeah,
would, put up variety, and like you said, people would recognize that. And also, the guests would be more likely to share it as well. Just because they have their face on it too. So yeah,
exactly. And especially with businesses, one of the things I noticed and I was really surprised about in this group, a lot of people that volunteer their channels were not the typical YouTuber, as in like the 13 to like maybe 35-year-old. I saw some people that were a little bit older than 35 years. And I think that is awesome. That I think the 35 to probably about 50 demographic on YouTube is hugely underserved. I know when you were talking to Steve Dotto, he said, like the boomers are coming, the gray foxes, or however he put it, I can't remember. But his whole passion is helping the baby boomers figure out how to use technology to grow their businesses. I think as a
yeah,
lot of them are retiring early, and they want to keep up with their kids and just start something in life, because entrepreneurship is cool for the first time in like the history of the world. Like they are curious about that. And if you fit that demographic, I've seen some of the fastest channels that I've consulted on in the last 2 years have all been from people that are over 35 years old, just getting on YouTube, knowing exactly the audience they wanted to talk to, and speaking in on their level and in their terms. Because how I communicate as a 35-year-old is different from how a 45-year-old communicates, which when I talk to a Gen Z, I can't even understand them anymore. I'm just like, I don't know. I'm getting old. So there's very different communication styles, structures, all of that. So lean into that, and that is your advantage. That is not your disadvantage. So easy to follow, how-to strategy, accelerate your visibility and grow in confidence. So Anita, I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah, Anita, yeah.
She seems like kind of going through it is first of all, I love the crown right there, and then all of this. So this is a little long for my taste, but it does clearly explain what this channel is all about. I love the call to action to subscribe right here. I mean, that's just a really good fundamental thing to do. And just looking through the videos, it seems like she focuses a lot, at least recently, on IGTV updates and just kind of how to use it, different products. And this is something everybody's trying to figure out. Looking at some of the sessions from Social Media Marketing World, which is kind of one of the biggest social media conferences in our country. I know the TubeBuddy team was there. I didn't go this year, but I've noticed the last 2 years, more marketers are talking about IGTV and YouTube for the first time. And if the polls and the data all suggest that people are kind of moving away from Facebook and online advertising, and they're trying to figure out how to diversify and go on to other platforms. So with Anita, I think you're in the right spot. And what I would recommend is a strategy that I'm starting to try to implement on my own channel is think about it in terms of just little content series. So like IGTV 101, don't name it that because that's a terrible YouTube name, but like, here's start to finish, maybe a 6-part IGTV of like, this is like from downloading it all the way to using it and creating advanced stories. Same for Facebook Live, your podcast. It looks like you're talking about that. I saw a WordPress website on there, and just really conquer one thing. And it seems like she's very mobile savvy, and she's using more social media apps that have like strong creation from the phone. So I think that's IGTV, Facebook Live, maybe a little bit of podcasting, and just really dive down into that. Dean Inham is an amazing creator, and all he talks about is creating content on a cell phone. Like the fact that this has a 4K camera in it and can record audio and takes pictures as good as my $2,700 camera sitting behind me on the couch is amazing. Like the technology in our pocket is more advanced than it ever has been. So think about those content series, and then just kind of like really show it, especially now that you can screencast directly from the iPhone and the Galaxy's OS, and you don't need a third-party app. You can, do your intro and then literally show them on the phone exactly how you download it and go into it and do stories. I think a lot of this is what you would tap into, and I think I saw 1 or 2 videos about this, is the confidence on camera. This is a generation that did not grow up live streaming their life, taking selfies all the time. Like cameras make people from like about 30 onwards nervous. Like they feel awkward in front of it. So I think there's a huge kind of missing part in YouTube of which every creator needs, is like how to be confident on camera. I was a video producer. I was behind the camera for 10 years before I started doing it. The only way I got this comfortable is I started doing video conferences like this, and I audited over 600 channels in a year and a half. So I knew my personality. I was like, I just got to get through it. And the more I do it, the more I will improve. So now I am way more confident talking to somebody across a camera or even in front of a camera than I was 2 years ago. So but a lot of YouTubers need that training. Everybody wants to be a YouTuber, but the fact of being in front of a camera with a light and microphone still scares the crap out of a lot of people, to be honest. And rightfully so, because you are putting yourself out there in the world. So I think that might actually be something that you could maybe change this whole channel into if you wanted to.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Anita does a really good job. I got to meet her in London when I was there, and she does amazing work. I was going to ask you though. You did mention like little mini series. So how would you actually like release that? Would you record all 4 or 5 videos first, and then drip it once a day for the next week, or
You know,
all at once? What's the best way to kind of put that
what
up?
I would probably do is, I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. It's just,
Mhm.
so if you're talking about like, so for me, like one of the things I wanted to do is I've been an editor for 20 years. It is far easier for me to get into Premiere Pro and edit anything than even open up iMovie because I'm like, what is this? I don't know where anything is. But so I'm going to create these series of like, okay, what do entrepreneurs have on their computers? They have iMovie, they have a screen capture software, Camtasia, they have Premiere Pro, they might have Final Cut X. So
Mhm.
I'm going to create like this 5 to 6 part series on all of these is how to edit them. I'm probably going to shoot the entire series all at once and produce it all at once, meaning like go through, edit, polish it up, upload it, optimize it. How I'm going to release it, I honestly don't know.
Mhm.
I think if you're a little bit more established, where I would probably lean is if you have like 4 series, I would release them kind of simultaneously. So like release one video, say you're doing like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I would probably do like a Monday and a Friday for those series and just kind of alternate and go series 1, episode 1, series 2, episode 1, da, 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 and just kind of cycle through it. But the one thing I would do in my optimization is I would make a playlist for all of them and I'd have that playlist public and I would have cards pointing to the next one. And at the end of each video, I would conversationally start talking about what we're going to talk about next and
Mhm.
use cards and end screen to point to that one. And why
Yep.
I would do that is because I don't want my subscribers or the algorithm to think, oh, this guy's only going to talk about iMovie and maybe put me in a weird spot for a while. So that's why I do like the round robin.
Mhm.
But if I as an entrepreneur stumbled across that course and they really wanted to binge watch all of it, because I have to figure out IGTV today, I would absolutely allow them to go through that playlist using in screens, cards, and even the playlist. Those videos would be unlisted, but when I make them public, they would just have a little bit of data, a little bit of viewership behind them. So
Got
you're
it.
kind of like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and it's also good because one of the things that YouTube really looks at is session time. So if you have, a series of like 5 videos that is just teaching sort of how to get started on IGTV, for example, then they're going from one video to the next, and then YouTube sees that as that you have really good content and you keep people, in a really long session time. But yeah, really good, really awesome tip. Josh, the next one, would you mind going through Yvonne? I see Yvonne is here. Yvonne Hyman. I think her title is Ask Evie. And actually, I just saw that she just had a YouTube Premiere kind of pop up notification on my screen, so it just reminded me. But yeah,
Nice.
you see it.
I'm looking.
Can't miss it. It's nice and orange.
Nice and orange. So one thing I notice across a lot of these channels while I'm searching is I cannot find her channel at all.
I sent you the.
You said
I
it's
sent you
Ask Evie?
yeah, YVI.
Spell it for me.
Ask Evie. YVI.
YVI.
There it is. Yep.
Okay, awesome. Oh, okay, yeah. She had the logo thing, so I was looking for this big orange thing. So business efficiency for digital entrepreneurs. Oh, I bet you your channel is about to explode due to the current climate. Did she have a particular a specific question, or was she the one that just said, I need this, tear it apart?
Yeah. Just take it apart.
So one thing I really like is her thumbnails. So great example for everybody listening is the visual branding. If you look at the banner and then going into kind of her thumbnails, this orange is really present. Her logo's always there. And then even the text. So this build excitement in that orange to kind of like reddish purple gradient. This is one of the things I think is really interesting because I took just enough graphic design classes in college to articulate to a graphic designer, but don't get me to design anything for you. And all the things that my professors would have like failed me for work on YouTube. So you can have a stroke, a drop shadow, and a gradient all on your text, and it works amazingly. And you should do it. Where if you put that in a design piece, they're like F. So I like that. I like the text blocks because it helps her pop stuff out. One of the things I think that can make them pop a little bit more. So look at carpool karaoke. They're just the best example. Tons of YouTubers do this, but you could outline yourself in like a white stroke. And then this background, even though it's blurry, you could do your orange to red gradient on the background. And that just makes the entire thumbnail pop a little bit by having that gradient. And then what we're doing is we're creating layers. So we have this really bright background that's going to catch somebody's eyes. And then you pop out against that because you're kind of like fully in color. You have that stroke. And then you can put your text on top of that. I've been doing that a lot for some of my clients, and it's been helping them. Just know that thumbnails always go through a trend. So let's see, best efficiency and tools. Let's look at the playlist. We haven't looked at anybody's playlist yet.
No, we haven't. Yeah.
Let me see. ClickUp 2.0, Kick-Ass Gold Challenge 2019, Customer Journey, G Suite for Business, Agora Pulse. Hey, some of our friends over there.
Yeah.
You know, Evie, I think one of the things where you're kind of in that bottom part, or it appears to be that you're in the bottom part of, that whole YouTube content thing that I keep referring to, where you're in the apologize for the handwriting, the help phase, which is where everybody starts out. But the thing I've noticed over the last few years is a lot of creators just stay here. And they're dependent on, like content series and looking for the best keyword and optimizing for that. And that's a great strategy. It should be the foundation of every channel. But to get a channel to really grow, to really take off, you have to somewhat evolve and get up to this hub level. Now, like I said, I definitely recommend, especially for a business and everybody, you need to have these help categories and these pillars of content that are evergreen, meaning people are always going to search for them and always watch them as long as you're providing value to them. The problem is that's kind of like, I have a problem, I'm searching for the solution. You solve that problem, I go on with my life. Why would I come back to you? Why would I subscribe? Why would I keep engaging with your content? So I see you talking about, things like the customer journey and team management and workflows and processes, which are really big, hefty topics. And some of them, client onboarding, 7 minutes. I'm just looking at it, 7 minutes. Workflow process, 12 minutes. I feel like these are something where you can really deep dive and get into. With you being a new channel, you're about to hit 1,000 subscribers, so you're going to start getting more and more momentum. I would just say my YouTube sense is tingling and saying, like, you probably think you have to create content under 10 minutes. Don't let, like, my content has to be X amount of time, like either 3 minutes or 7 to 13 or over 20 minutes, because that's what somebody on YouTube saying. Create it as long as you need for that topic. And how you can get up into that hub content, which when I'm talking to a business or an entrepreneur, I associate hub with thought leadership. That's where you're really going to start building that one-on-one relation. And to build thought leadership and go further into topics, you need more time. So let your help stuff kind of be probably that 3 to 7 minute. You have an immediate need. I'm going to bring value and help you solve that problem really quicker, like really quick and easy and efficiently. But once it comes to this thing, this is where we're really going to dive down into it. And something like the customer journey. I was just editing a podcast for a client where they were talking about this, and they like absolutely will not go over 15 minutes at all. And it's really hard to talk about the customer journey in 15 minutes. It's such a beefy thing. I think you can give a solid intro in 15 minutes, but don't be afraid to like really bring this on. And again, how you can keep people engaged for those longer time frames is, you can, easiest way, bring somebody on, do an online conference, interview somebody, because then you're getting different opinions and thought leadership and just ideas, and a conversation is more organic and engaging. Bring in visuals, business people. If one thing I would say, if you're getting into YouTube, is go find some PowerPoint templates or find a PowerPoint designer, like a virtual assistant that can create something that is really visually pleasing and has this this journey of information. Just don't get into PowerPoint and put like 5 bullet points on the screen and talk about those for 10 minutes. Like, have a flow of information, animate things in, bring in different visuals as you're talking, try to produce your content a little bit more, because on YouTube, we figured this out like a long time ago. Every 3 to 5 seconds, the shot should change. So, and there's like a different things. If you go watch reality television, just listen to the music. And when I was doing reality TV, like one of the first things the producer taught me is they're like, every 3.5 minutes, the music has to change. So like, we're going to talk about the kitchen for this little bit. When we go into the dining room, the music needs to change, because that's a visual, that's an audible trigger to get people things. So think about doing it through music, sound effects, visuals, do some motion graphics, asking people to subscribe or reiterate something. So if there's like a key point in the customer journey, bring in a graphic with a sound effect and just have it there, because even if somebody's listening casually, like when we hear that sound effect, that re-engages our mind and makes us go and pay attention to the screen. And what you'll see, if you're doing this really well, is over time in your audience retention, where your curve is here, you'll see like a spike here. And if that's where you gave like one of those things, people are rewinding to watch that part again. And that's why we get those bumps in audience retention. So love your branding, love what you're doing. I would be real curious to kind of look at your Instagram, because I see that you're probably speaking in the past. Definitely take advantage of videos with captions. That's what we do for a lot of clients now, is doing that for Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. But I think you're off to a great start.
Yeah, that's really good. Awesome. And so you mentioned 1,000. It's like sort of like this like threshold where things kind of change. So what do you normally see? Obviously every channel's different, everybody's different, but in general, when people hit 1,000, there's obviously some other tools they have access to. There's some features on YouTube that they have access to. But yeah, what's your thoughts, like as Evie is approaching 1,000 and other people there that are approaching 1,000 subscribers? How do you see that sort of changing sometimes with them, with their channel?
So I think there's no like, this is where a lot of creators get it wrong. There's no like magic lever. So it's like, oh, you crossed 1,000, and then the algorithm goes and like reroutes you, and there's like thing. It's more if you know anything about exponential growth, I've watched a lot of people do this. Like there's a channel that I was working on about a month ago or 6 months ago with a friend, and she was just about to cross over 1,000. And as I was helping her kind of like with her, I was doing some editing for her, doing some thumbnails, and just kind of, like trying to show her in 2 or 3 videos, like what I think, so she could hand that off to her editor and have like a template. It's more like, it's your first 10 subscribers are really easy because it's like your family and your parents. But then like to get to 100 is a battle. And then to get to 500 is a little bit easier. 1,000 is like a huge milestone. When Roberto and I were talking at VidCon last year, he actually said, I think it was like 90% of all channels on YouTube have 10,000 subscribers or less. Some crazy number like that. So like, you know, we think of all of these YouTubers that have 1 million. I mean, that is like the 0.01% of all YouTube, but it's more exponential growth for several reasons. And like the example I was giving, she was at 1,000. I looked at her the other day. She was at 2,400, and that this time period was 6 months. If you look at Casey from like when he got 1 million to 2 million to 5 million subscribers, it was like bing, bing, or his growth chart was like bing, 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 bing. You know, it gets closer because there's exponential growth. Part of that is, especially for a newer channel, so it's a good time to start out on YouTube. It's always a good time because as you're growing your subscriber base, your subscribers are actually engaged. Channels that have been around for like 5 to 10 years, if you look at their data, which I've seen quite a few on a lot of them, every channel has a cycle, and every channel like recycles subscribers. So just because somebody has like 500,000 subscribers doesn't mean those 500,000 people are all active and engaged. A lot of them have dropped to the wayside. So don't let that superficial subscriber number kind of deter you. But what I've noticed is channels that have started probably in the last 2 years or so, their subscriber retention is like 70 to 80%. So most of their views are coming from subscribers, which is a double-edged sword. It's good when you're starting out because when you post a video and you're trying to help YouTube figure out who you are, those subscribers engaging to you gives YouTube those signals that it needs, that like, hey, when I put this video in front of people like this, they actually click on it, they watch it, they comment on it. That's why it's so important to build that community right away, because those are going to be like your founding subscribers. Those are going to be the people that share your content and scream out. But as you get more and more subscribers, that just gives YouTube a little bit more of a sample pool of people that have bought into your channel. Because we know that when you release a video, you know, and you make it public, YouTube sends it out to about 20% of your subscribers, give or take. This is all speculation. I've talked to like Daryl and everybody in the space. And so I'm using kind of like median numbers of what we all think. But we know when you put a video out, that goes to 20% of your subscribers. So if you have 1,000 subscribers, that's 200 of your subscribers that are hopefully going to click on your thumbnail to watch it, you know, past 60%. You know, so this whole viewership funnel, which looks familiar in our analytics, is doing that. Now it's going to do that for about the first 24 hours. And if all of this goes good to your subscribers, because if your subscribers care about your content, then other people are probably going to do it. YouTube is going to start to promote it a little bit more and then get it out there. So you think of your subscribers as like your initial sample rate.
Right.
And then so as you get more, you get a bigger sampling of your content, and then how you really get the channel to grow, you know, so it's good to have those subscribers and those engaged subscribers, but then, you know, like around 10, 20, 30,000 subscribers, it depends for every channel. When you start to notice that you're kind of, you know, your growth starts teetering and flatlining, that's kind of like where a lot of people get discouraged. And it's because like, oh, I've had all these subscribers and now I'm at like 22,000 and it's slowing down. It's because there's several reasons for this. One, you could have tapped your market depending on like how small you are. Two, your content could be getting a little stale. So you have to think of like, how's a way that I can talk about this in new ways, like a new format. Maybe it's always just been me talking to the camera. I need to start interviewing people, or I need to start doing a live stream and engaging with these people so they like, I can build that community a little bit more. Maybe I need to stop talking about all this very specific search help stuff, and I have to start talking about the bigger ideas above all this. Like, what is all this help stuff? What are we really talking about? And if this is IGTV, and Facebook and live and podcasting. Like, what is all of this? This is all marketing for the solopreneur. So what
Mhm.
does that solopreneur really care about in terms of marketing? Like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm doing all of this. At some point, I have to hand it off. So, like, maybe I need to start talking about, okay, like, what's your first employee look like? Should you hire an employee or should you use an agency or a consultant like me, and kind of start getting to the bigger ideas and kind of like that customer journey. This is where, as people are learning from me, they're going to get tapped out. So, what's the next thing that they need to learn to grow their business and
Mm.
kind of have
It's good. Yeah, it's good advice. It's good advice. So you kind of share more of, I mean, if you're talking to yourself almost, right? Like your audience is kind of like they're going along with the ride and hopefully, they're learning from you. So then what's the next thing? It's really good advice. If
we're
you're at
all,
that stage, 20, 30, 40,000, whatever that is, and you're kind of stale, that's really good advice.
yeah.
You need to mix it
And
up.
if you really start to look at all of the really big YouTubers, so H3H3 is a great example of this. They used to be like pranks and skits, and then there was like a huge lawsuit. They pivoted and they are just straight up a podcast now. First We Feast, which is owned by Complexity, I think is their thing. But if you look at their entire YouTube channel, they have all these different shows, and they actually just got picked up by here in the States. So First We Feast is actually going to be on like True TV or some television. It's going to become a broadcast. Like, people are going to be watching that on their TV here in a year or so because it got picked up by a network. A lot of creators, iJustine started out as like the really cute tech girl. That's like what she was known for back about 12 years ago.
Mhm.
She was actually a spokesperson for one of the companies I was working for,
Mhm.
and she was like really smart and savvy, and she did like that, and then she got really into Apple products, and then she broadened her stuff, and then she started vlogging. But if you look at her channel, she does some baking. So, like, tech YouTuber that reviews stuff, Apple fanatic, and baker, like all different. But if you look at her baking content, it always kind of tent pulls into something. So, like, if Nintendo is bringing out a new Mario game, she makes little Mario cookies and is talking about the new Mario release and everything. So all of her content, even though like to the outside looks totally random, and it's like, well, how is she doing like tech stuff and then like baking? I mean, yeah, there's a point where you get so much, your audience cares so much about you, you can kind of do whatever you want. But there is actually a lot of strategy into her content of what she's doing and how she ties those three verticals together.
Yeah, that's smart. That's smart. Um,
So I know we've been streaming for a
know,
while.
over 50 minutes. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm happy to keep on going. I think 50 minutes is a little bit. You've been watching the chat. Have we gotten any questions?
Yeah, there's a few questions. So
Let's,
actually, you got Bree's channel there
yeah.
coming up. So she has a question where I'm trying to scroll and find it, but basically she was asking, how would you advise somebody to sort of, I guess, title and SEO a video that covers like 4 to 5 topics? Because every week she does this recap. She calls it the brief
Yeah.
right there. So so how would you, I mean, do you have any advice on how to do that in a way that can be found, or is that more, that type of content is more built for your subscribers, not necessarily search?
Yeah, I think that, so first of all, go and start spending a lot of time.
Here's her question.
Um, yeah, research the Young Turks, which they're TYT and Cheddar. And then both MBKHD, MBKHD and Unbox Therapy all have like Unbox Therapy and MBKHD specifically have their channels, and now they've kind of started side channels where it's like I think Lose is called After the Unboxing, to where, and then MBK's is Waveform is his podcast, but they're Lou Unbox Therapy is doing his on video. He actually has an amazing studio, and that's more of a, hey, this is what we unboxed in those short videos, but this is us going into more detail. So I would definitely keep a pulse on those two in particular, because they're the tech thing, and see how they title and their content, how their thumbnails are, and what their format is, because you can learn a lot from creators that are above you in your space. So if you notice that Lou only talks about something for about 3.5 to 4 minutes, and whatever his title and thumbnail are is like the second segment, and it's never the first and it's never the third, and there, those kind of consistencies, there is a reason behind that. These are really intelligent creators that have massive teams behind them that are looking at the data, so you can reverse engineer that and use that to your advantage. I think a show like this is much more for audience building. It's for that thought leadership. It is more of that hub content. So, if you start out that way, it could be a little harder to, kind of build up that audience development, because, it's very hard to tell YouTube this 20-minute video is about 5 different things. So I would just pick the all-star. And for you, if everybody's talking about, the 200-inch wall plasma from CES 2020, don't lead with that, because all the bigger YouTubers are going after that, and they have the audiences that are going to click in on that. Go find like the little product that's like this thing that can charge your iPhone 57 times on one charge, and it's solar powered, and it has like a Swiss Army knife in it or whatever. Go find those odd tech gadgets that nobody else is talking about. But obviously nobody knows what this is. So that's where you have to get into this thing can absolutely change your mobile life or something like that. Lead with that intrigue, lead with that problem, and then allow this to be the solution that solves that problem. So think a little bit broader than that. Digital news so much is changing. I would really say figure out who you're talking to. Like, again, you're in that grind phase. So use this time to figure out your format, who you're talking to. You look to be probably in your early 20s, which a lot of these kids, that demographic, I guess, younger millennials or they're not quite Gen Z. A lot of people in the early 20s are wanting to travel. They're not going to college. They're not buying houses all the time. They would rather start their own business than go work for somebody else, which is 100% fine. So just really know, like, who is that you're talking to? If that is your peers and that it is the entrepreneur, then you need to be the marketing show that tells other 20 something entrepreneurs how they can use Snapchat to make money and grow their business. And there's a lot of stuff like that. I would also say a lot of channels have started to do this. Go find like the all stars. So go do a 10 to 15 minute case study on, like, I hate to say it, but like Kylie Jenner. And I know like she's synonymous with Snapchat, and when they changed their interface and she didn't like it, she's like, yep, going back to Instagram. Go back to Gary Vee, who puts out IGD TV content all the time. Find the people, the influencers that are really doing that. Study them from an SEO, from a content perspective, from a marketing perspective, and create a 25-minute, special edition case study on that. Tie in some news about the platform, but figure out how it's relevant. So like today, like this week's episode, I don't know what you're working on, 100% scrap it. And I would talk about why the demand for Facebook Live is so high right now because of the coronavirus and self-isolation. My boot camp cannot have people more than 10 people. So you have to RSVP to a boot camp, but all the trainers are trying to use Facebook Live. So I can work out from my living room, my backyard, my garage, and follow along on Facebook Live. I don't know how it's going to go, but a lot of companies are leaning into Facebook and YouTube now just to live stream. That is like a social media platform. That's a huge news update. And you can tie that into the trend of Corona, but you're not talking about the virus and everything. So you're kind of hopping on that trend, but you're offering that unique perspective for your demographic, your channel, your audience.
Awesome. Yeah, Bree, hopefully that helps, gives you some perspective. I know that you do, like, I met Bree at Social Media Marketing World, and she's fantastic. She knows her stuff. She also works, she also consults or works with Quick, which is an awesome closed caption tool. But yeah, these recaps are these weekly recaps are really fantastic. It is a tricky thing, and I like what you said there, where, you know, it is a bit of a tricky thing to try to pack in like tech news.
Yeah,
and
what I typically say is like the help content that is like one video or one series around one topic that you can optimize for, because you can tell YouTube, okay, this is what it's about. It has one clear topic, like the title, the thumbnail, the hook. I'll say, hey guys, today I'm going to teach you how to use that iMovie program on your computer so you can start editing your own video content to grow your business for free. That's a good hook. And then like, okay, this is how you open up iMovie, da, da, da. All that is very, from a search content perspective, very like specific. But once you get into like these variety shows, this is why vloggers have such a hard time, is like people see these all-star vloggers like Casey Neistat get, 10 million subscribers and they want that. It's really hard. If you actually look at Casey's stuff, he's never once, his video he released last week, he actually, for the first time ever, really used tags, but they were only the tags for the people that were sponsoring the video. And that was probably in his contract, like, hey, you have to tag like NordVPN, at least do that. But
right.
That's why it's so hard for variety shows to grow, because it is more like less search and more personality driven, and more like, I have to bring you something that you can't do yourself or see yourself. Like if you look at Casey's stuff, nobody's going to go buy a $10,000 airplane ticket. Nobody's going to get to stay in a 20,000 square foot New York condo on their vacation. Nobody's going to go down to like the Caribbean and meet up with Peter McKinnon and crash a drone into the Caribbean just to, review it for DJI. These are all like really out of this world experiences that he's documenting to bring, whereas some vloggers are just, I would never vlog in Dallas, Texas, because it is always hot. It's always ugly outside. And there's really not that much interesting things to do around here. Maybe that's because I've lived here for 25 years. So I'm just like, whatever. But, I would much rather go hang out with you in Canada, and I'd vlog up there and be like, let's go to like, Tim Hortons coffee and like go like knock on Peter's studio and like do all this crazy stuff. And that's like worth showing. But,
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. It is. I think when you start, you just have to help people. You have to answer questions, and then eventually you can kind of sprinkle in, because nobody really cares in the beginning. Like, they don't care what you're having for dinner or where you're, all these things. But very, very good point. So Bree, hopefully that helps. Let us know if you have any questions. Josh is in the chat as well. All right, so Graham has been waiting for his channel here. He says, here comes the hammer. So
Graham, I actually like your channel because I've always been like the video techie guy since I was probably about 17 years old. And this is the first time I've ever come across like a channel that deals with cameras and stuff that I know like so little about, because you're doing astrology, like these cameras and photos and these lenses that, you're taking these beautiful pictures of the night sky. And, I was watching your one video because I think you mentioned you had a new format that obviously my son's home, if you guys can hear him.
Welcome.
had this new format where he's trying to do like more of like, instead of this talking head studio thing, which is like this, which beautiful studio, beautiful lighting, nice medium shot, talking directly to camera. Love all of that. But I think what you meant by this new format is you were kind of like vlogging as you were doing all this. And I'm like, right away, I'm like, what is this really cool like dome thing? Like, I want one. It's just like, I wish I could have like one, whoosh, just change my background. But you know, I thought it was cool, and I know you're experimenting, but I thought, you know, as I was watching it, I was like having all these notes, and I started writing down these notes, and I just kind of skipped ahead, and I was like, dang it, he did everything I was going to tell him. So, you know, I think with you doing like the telescope reviews and the commentary, and then you know, starting to get into, like you said, evolving and doing the vlogging is a natural progression. I think it's going to be really unique. One of the things I had is I don't know how big this like niche is. I actually know nothing about it, to tell you the truth. I have never even talked about or looked at a channel about this. Yeah, the only thing I remember about stargazing goes back to like the Boy Scouts days, you know, like when I was at summer camp. But there is probably a really you know, like these telescopes start out at like $500+ like this lens. I know nothing about it. I know it's really big, and it's a 0.85, which I know is super wide, and that's like a really big lens on the camera. So I'm guessing this thing is really expensive. um so this is like one of those things, kind of like the Chevy dude. It's hard to get into this vertical. I mean, like you're out $70,000 just to buy a Chevy. I would imagine that this equipment is very technical, very specific, and really expensive. So that in itself is going to make the purchasing decision really hard for a lot of people, because they're like, I'm going to about to drop $5,000 on this lens or something. Like, is this a hobby that I can really pursue? So what that tells me is there's probably going to be more than usual activity around search, meaning because there's so few people talking about this and this stuff is so expensive, people are really going to be doing their homework on these things and want to know almost everything about it, and if this is really the right choice for them before they buy it. So I think that allows you to kind of do a lot of stuff around reviews and search. But even because this is so technical, this is so specific, like I could not stargaze in Dallas. I would have to drive 2.5 hours up into Oklahoma to get to an area where the skies are clear and there's less light for me to actually probably use this equipment. What that gives you is the opportunity. So like maybe I can only plan 1 or 2 stargazing trips a year. But I can watch you vlogging your trip and your day of everything from like going in the studio and packing all my gear together. You're like, what's in my stargazing camera bag 2020 edition, and doing that, to the journey of me maybe going 3 hours to this place and vlogging and doing that. Maybe I meet up with another friend, another YouTuber that's like a photographer that's interested in night photography. Maybe he's another stargazer. Maybe it's a scientist. Science channels are incredibly on the rise on YouTube. So there's a collaboration opportunity there to blend your audiences. And then it's also, okay, this is my setup. This is me documenting, how do I set up this telescope, plug all this stuff into my computer. I saw you were using a car battery to like power all this. And later on in this video, you guys need to watch it. I feel for you, man, because I've like been in this in the video. I guess your power cable on your laptop wasn't plugged in, so you only got like 4 minutes instead of 4 hours worth of photos, which had to have been really hard. But I loved that you admitted that. And you're like, yeah, so I was expecting like this 6-hour time lapse, and I'm out there. It would have been hilarious from a comedic standpoint, just for me and the storytelling of, show that time lapse of you doing all that and drinking coffee and surfing on your phone and drinking more coffee, and, doing whatever you do when you sit in a field for 6 hours, because you can't touch this once it's set up and programmed and going. Like, I wouldn't even want to sneeze around it because it's so like precise and following the sky. And like, so seeing all that and then be like, yeah, I just did all that and here's what I got. And it's like, bloop. And then you come back on camera and you're like, yeah, so rule number 1 of stargazing, always plug in your laptop, because when you close it, it goes to sleep and you end up freezing and drinking a lot of coffee for no reason. So, that shows your humor and allows your personality to come out. And that long term is going to help you do that. But I think, there's so much potential in this. One of the things I would do is see if you can find like a rental house, or like, where can you go to rent this lens, because it's extremely expensive. So like, I don't even own most of my glass, and I'm a videographer for 15 years. I rent, and there's like Netflix of lenses all around the country, and I can just go online, it gets next day shipped to me. I've shipped it to hotels on shoots. But if there's a service that's out there for that, where you can do that, I would 100% go to them and partner with them right now and just be like, hey, I'm starting this channel. I'm reviewing products. I want to do this. Would you guys be, in exchange for a partnership, can we form a partnership? And every month you guys send me like 1 or 2 things, and I do it in advance, so it's not real big. And then when I send it, I get to do an unbox video. You're the sponsor of it. Do that. And when I want to go out and I want to test all this stuff, you can really become the thought leader for just being like the guy that's putting in the sweat equity of, meaning like creating the videos with these partnerships and talking about them, and having an affiliate code to where like maybe every new person you get like a flat $10 or a percentage of whatever their rental is. So if this is like a $200 lens to rent and you get 10% of that, that's $20, and you multiply that starts to kind of upside and, slowly make the channel cost effective and do things like that. So a lot of young YouTube creators don't think about it in these terms. So doing stuff like that. The other thing, just like the vlogging and everything, the other thing I would guess is like on like the trend scale is, like when we had the full solar eclipse, I think it was about a year and a half ago. That is a huge tentpole event for somebody in your field. And like, even I'm keep going back to him because I was such a huge fanboy. Casey like went and did this flight and was in the path to the solar eclipse and things like that. And even he vlogged about it, and tons of people on YouTube did. But if when the next full eclipse is happening, or something like that, that takes like, I would imagine about 8 months of planning to get there. So that's a way for you to mini document that entire journey. And it's like, okay, guys, in like April of 2023, we're going to have a full-on solar eclipse across North America, and here's the trajectory across the United States and everything. And I'm trying to find a hotel and flights and everything. And I'm going to Dallas, Texas on this date, which I definitely wouldn't recommend coming from here because we're such a large city, you wouldn't see anything. But like planning that trip, like doing the reviews, booking the hotels, like just documenting it and saying like, this is how much planning goes into it. This is how much money I'm out. One of the greatest channels that I started following when he was maybe like 20,000 subscribers or anything, is a guy that his name is D for Darius. And I think he's actually collaborated with YouTube. He's done courses, he's done some consulting, but he was this guy that was in Arizona that was a student filmmaker. And he was documenting his first independent film, which started out as like his student thesis project so he could graduate film school. So it was like a 10-minute short. And then he actually turned that into, I think, an hour and 20-minute feature. And then he documented the entire time he was shooting this on his own dime, like a lot of independent filmmakers do. And then when I kind of stumbled across him, he was vlogging about the journey of going on the film festival circuit. Because when you make a feature independent film, you have about 18 months of submitting it to festivals and getting it around, and you do all this in the chance that somebody will pick it up and you'll have like a mini theatrical release, or Netflix will stream it, or it'll go straight to DVD, or at this point like Amazon Prime would buy it. But it was really interesting because I'd never seen somebody document that process, and that's how his channel grew. And now he talks about camera gear and stuff like that. So kind of similar vertical in that you're both talking about camera gear, but go back and look at his channel and see how he documented these really long processes and did that. And I think you can draw a lot of inspiration from them. A lot of thing YouTubers in general, I've noticed that they don't do is they don't honestly just use the platform a whole lot. Like they're like in their own little bubble, and they know like the 10 major players in their space, and they're always comparing them to them, but they just don't openly use it and consume content. And even if they do that, they don't say, okay, how can I go and find something like what's Gary Vee doing, and how can I like apply some of that to my content to make it better and do things like that. So just always kind of be learning and critical and looking at people both in your space, but more importantly, like outside your space. Because if you're just replicating what people before you are doing, you know, like why should, if I'm already over here subscribing to like Nick Ninham and getting all my great YouTube content from him, like why would somebody subscribe to Video Joshua? That's what I've been trying to figure out for a really long time. And it's
Right.
the part of that is, okay, I have to see what all these guys are doing, and I have to do something totally different that comes from a unique perspective or a unique format or something like that. So look for inspiration wherever you can. I think there's like 1 billion monthly users on YouTube and 400 hours of content uploaded every minute.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can find something that's going to inspire you. And it doesn't matter if it's a cooking show and you talk about, you know, IGTV, there's something that can inspire you.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I love Graham's channel. I forget how long it took to him. Like it's huge. He just got to 100 subscribers. I think in like within 2 or 3 weeks or something really, really crazy like that. So great advice. Kind of
Which is yeah, that's an indication that there's a need for that content.
Yeah,
And Graham, exactly. Dude, I love that hat. Like that profile picture, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I want that hat, man. I just like, even if that's like one of your thing is like your look, you know, Tim talks about this a little bit. Like, have you ever seen Tim Schmoyer without his baseball cap on? I actually have. It's really weird because for the last 10 years, he's always worn a baseball cap. Like you never see Casey Neistat without his glasses on. You never see Gary Vee without a beanie. It just becomes part of your brand.
Yep.
So something like that could be in there. So
yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Graham, for volunteering your channel. We've got a couple questions here from Rich, who is also sent in his channel, Rich Benares. So let me just scroll up here. So he has some really good. 1 second.
Rich.
Benares. Rich, Benares. Says never be scared to show your human sides. What I always go by. He also had a really good question here about playlists. So Rich, I met Rich in San Diego a couple weeks ago. They have a really awesome community of like creators in San Diego that meets up every weeks. But Rich does a variety of things. You know, he does filmmaking. He's got this vlogging thing going on that he does. He also talks about actual like growth on YouTube and things. So I think one of his questions, Josh, is would it hurt your channel to have a variety of different playlists? So he has a variety of different topics that he talks about on his channel, which he, I think, kind of categorizes through his playlist. So Rich, if you're on the line too, then ask your questions. We're looking at your channel. So
but I know he was asking about Evergreen too. So
Evergreen too, yeah.
So here's the thing, and there is so many creators are like it's either one way or the other way, and it's just not like that. There's so many variables, there's so many things. But what I will say is an evergreen channel, so like a lot of the entrepreneurs that we kind of looked at that are like, they have like this one specific thing they're talking about, like their content's going to be evergreen. Whereas I'm actually glad you brought him up, because he was one of the ones I want to talk about. Like Rich is a variety channel, he's a vlogging channel, and he's just starting out. The way you grow these channels is entirely different, and some of them are dependent more on other things than some of the other things. So evergreen stuff is stuff that people are always searching for, that is search driven. So what a lot of people tend to do is create kind of this commentary stuff of like, I'm going to set up, I got my really cool backdrop. Okay, I had to make sure my dog wasn't right behind me. He has a tendency to lay right behind me. But I have this backdrop, I have this mic, I have this webcam, this is my setup. Hey guys, welcome to Video Joshua. Today we're talking about YouTube, and this is how I do all my tags for all my clients, that are straight to camera commentary. And then you have other stuff where it's like, hey guys, today we're going to get some coffee. The baby was up like really late last night. I have about 3 hours of sleep. So official, not sponsor Red Bull. And, like we're going to make some coffee because coffee's really cool. So get some slow-mo coffee grinding stuff. I grind all my coffee beans, organic, free trade only. Don't do that Starbucks stuff. And then let's go. I got to go run some errands, and I got to go drop the baby off at school. And then it's like, as I'm in the car, I'm like, okay, so like a lot of people ask me about like YouTube stuff. Those two examples there, you can already tell like the format, the energy, the purpose of all of them is completely different. Evergreen content, you're dependent on search. And like I said, I think, what is it? 2 billion. It's either 1 billion or 2 billion. I can't remember. I think it is 1 billion active users. I have to go back and look at my deck. No, there's a lot of people on YouTube every month. Like, just bottom story. There's like 400 hours of the last number that I saw. There's more and more creators going on. So you really just have to figure out like what separates you. Don't, I know Andrew's gonna like cheer me for this, is like, don't be so dependent on search and tags and the perfect tag. TubeBuddy is an amazing tool that allows you to do a lot of different things. Like, I barely use the tag exploring TubeBuddy, and I've been using it for, let's see, 6 years as TubeBuddy, and probably like a year or two when it was like Video LC or something like that, which is now a part of TubeBuddy's reporting. But like, I've known Phil and the team for a really long time, worked with them, like giving them ideas, seen access to stuff that they're working on. Like, don't be so dependent on search. Figure out, like, everybody is their own unique unicorn, snowflake, whatever you want to call yourself. Like, and when a platform is so crowded and bringing so much attention, you cannot just simply repeat what everybody else is doing. And you have to figure out like who you are. What's your truth? What are you passionate about? What works for you best? A lot of entrepreneurs, like myself included, I have to have a lighting setup, and I have to block 4 hours of time. I have to drink a lot of coffee, and I have to bang out 10 pieces of content and hand that off to an editor to edit it, even though I know how to edit, because I have to go do things like this for my clients. Whereas other people are really energetic. They love being in front of the camera. They're always on the go. So vlogging lends more to them. So just really figure out what vertical goes for you. That being said, Rich, with you being a variety channel, I've seen really interesting. Like, I saw your meetup. I actually watched Rob's video from when he was out there and he went to the meetup. So I saw that meetup from a few different perspectives. And I think that's really cool. You could be the thought leader, the person in that community that could really help it thrive. It's hard to find, but a lot of people don't know this, but the largest concentration of YouTubers in the world, or in the United States, outside of California and New York, is actually Utah. of all places. There are more YouTube creators there per capita than anywhere else in the country outside of LA, New York. And if you know so like Daryl Leaves is up there. Lindsay Sterling was there at one point. Devin Supertramp was there. Sean Doris is there right now. Tons and tons of people. But if you kind of go back and hear those creation stories, all of those people I just named started at a meetup like 10 years ago, and they were just helping each other and having that collaborative helping mentality. So I think you have something that's really special just in that. You know, like from a playlist standpoint and a variety standpoint, I think you need to lean more into the variety stuff because I feel like you have the energy there, and just know that like you really have to fine tune and do your storytelling, like harness your storytelling things. So there's 3 things you're doing on YouTube. Every creator is either educating, entertaining, or inspiring. Those are like the 3 buckets that we all somehow fit into. Really great YouTubers can mix and match 2 of those. So like they teach somebody how to do something, and there's a difference between like open up iMovie and go file, import, go over to your USB drive and be like, hey guys, today we're going to bring this stuff in. And then like you're going to do in and out and da da da. And like everybody's just doing like start to finish. Okay, well on YouTube, we need to find like this part and we're going to put that at the beginning. And I really want to get people amped up. So I'm going to bring in music from Epidemic Sound. There's an affiliate link down there. And we're going to get this a template from Envato, and we're a spinning logo. And it's like rich, you know, and all this. And it's like rich vlogs. It's like, and then you do that. Like there's a big difference in those kind of things. So the other thing that stuck out to me is, so like really harness on your storyteller. I think you're a storyteller. I think vlogging lends to that. I think you have this entire community, which a lot of people are searching for. I mean, the fact that this Content Marketers Cafe, we already have like, I think 1,000 members in it in less than a month or 2 months, it feels like, and this is like a great thriving community. You have that right there in your backyard. So figure out how you can help people, how you can serve those creators, how you can collaborate with them and create more interesting content for all of you guys. And then the other thing that kind of struck me that kind of made me curious is I think you mentioned just in one of your videos, let me see, something about, correct me, Rob, you know him. I think he mentioned something about being Filipino.
Yep.
Correct? Okay. So one of my best friends that I went to college with came from a Filipino family, and like I got to see their culture and like come into their house and see how they interact and holidays and everything. It is like a really different, unique perspective. And it actually taught me a lot coming from a middle-class white family growing up in Houston, Texas. You know, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. You guys like always eat, like you're always eating. And like, as soon as I'd walk into the door, like Raymond's grandmother would be like, oh, mijo, you're so like small, like eat. Cause I was a skinny white boy. And I think there's something like that Filipino community. There might be something there that you can tap into, because that gives you a unique perspective on life, especially in the West Coast area. I think there's a higher population density of Filipinos, Asian Pacificers, you know, because that's where they all immigrate from. But, you know, there might be something there that kind of like makes you unique. And it's like, there's different areas that you could go to. So like, if you are vlogging, like, what's something that maybe has to do with your culture that's right there in the Bay Area that you can go and like explore and kind of educate somebody about your culture? You may not have an interest to do that, but that's just something that kind of clicked to me. And I'm like, I know this is like a very tight knit community. It's like a very family knit community. And, you know, there's a different perspective there. So that may be something that you can vlog. So I saw like lifestyle travel. I don't think a lot of people are going to be traveling anytime soon, but there's like this whole trend on YouTube for travel channels that's called like day travel. And it's basically like, where can I go and like get up in the morning, take the train? So like from LA, I mapped it out for a client. you can be in San Diego, Phoenix, Arizona, Las Vegas, or somewhere else in California, all within 5 hours. So it's like absolutely possible for you to get in a car, drive, go do something for a few hours, and drive back late that one night in 24 hours. So if you really want to lean into traveling with the restrictions and everything, maybe you can be kind of like those, like a challenge traveler of, I'm going to go travel to this place and we're going to spend 24 hours there. And you vlog the entire thing. So you have like this travel vlog in tight with this challenge. Maybe you up it up more. Like, we're going to get to Las Vegas and only spend $500 or something like that, and do that kind of thing. Anytime you introduce a different challenge or a different aspect, that keeps people curiosity. Is like, oh, well, how are you doing it? You know, like, we're only going to do public transportation or something like that. All of that makes your story more intriguing, and it helps on the arc of the character's journey, you know, like the trial and tribulation and all of that. So
that's amazing. Yeah, that's really good advice. I don't doubt that Rich might actually do that. Meeting Rich really quickly and seeing the community in San Diego. I mean, I think that's something that he would totally do. And yeah, I love his channel. It's very variety based, but you know, he puts his heart into it. So yeah, those are really good advice. And Rich, I know you're in the chat there. If you have any questions, let us know. And Josh, we are approaching like an hour and a half. So this is like the longest. This has been the longest live session.
I told you it wasn't going to be done in 30 minutes, man.
I know. We were like, how long do you want to go? You want to go 30 minutes? You're like, that's not going to happen. So no, this has been really helpful. I hope that everybody that tuned in or dropped in has found some value. You know, I think there's a lot of conversations here that need to kind of continue on. So if you want to, please connect with Josh directly. He's in the group, he's on YouTube, he's on Instagram, like putting out a lot of content there as well. So Josh, where can people connect with you to continue these conversations? And I know that there's some other channels that we just didn't get to. I think it would take us like 3 or 4 hours to do that. But we'll have to bring you back on. But in the meantime, where can people connect with you?
So basically, you guys can find me at Video Joshua anywhere on social media. I'm really not active on Twitter. I do a lot of experimenting on Instagram. I do have a channel, YouTube channel, Video Joshua, where content's starting to be put out there. And then here on Facebook, honestly, I'm super old school. I finally got onto Facebook Messenger. So if you guys want to just go like my page, Video Joshua, you have any questions, feel free to DM me there. That's probably going to be the easiest way. And like I said, I'm going to go through the comments and try to, like every channel, I'm just going to kind of write a few comments as I can. It may take me a day or two to get through them all, but that's mainly where I'm at. So
awesome. Yeah. And yeah, so everybody's saying you need to come back. We should do an all-day live stream. I think at some point we should do that. We should just bring on a bunch of different, experts, and we should just go live all day. But
24-hour live stream, who's gonna fade out? I mean, like Dee and Nick have been like training for that for years, though, so they would probably win. Just to tell you the truth. But yeah, I mean, anytime you want to have me back on, I can. If there's any, I try to keep it like super universal advice instead of being like nitty gritty into people's specific. But if you guys want to, yeah, just like my page, follow me. And if you guys, there was a topic that you guys really like, I stumbled across that you guys really want to talk about in depth, we can always do something later on just around that. So just let me know.
Yeah. No, we'll definitely bring you back on. Yeah, I'm really hoping to get back out to Dallas at some point, Josh, and see you guys and see the fam and hang on a little bit, when things kind of settle down. But yeah, we'll get you back on. This has been really awesome. So please connect with Josh. I'm going to hop off, and we're going to be getting started with TubeBuddy 101, which is me and Andrew, and we're going to be going live there doing a tutorial on how to get started with TubeBuddy. And also, just want a really quick plug before I go is that tomorrow we have a panel that's happening. So you'll see it right here. And we're going to be going live. We have 5 ladies that are going to take over the TubeBuddy channel tomorrow: Desiree, Shamika, the Content Bug, Kristen, and also Trina. So they're going to be talking about your brand, bankroll, and business easily with YouTube, with the Women of YouTube panel. So that'll be really fun. So we'll see you then. In the meantime, Josh, thanks again, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Man.
Okay, hang on tight for a second. Thanks, everyone.